Well, hello everybody. It's Saturday. This is usually our slowest time of the year, or slowest time of the week, so this will probably be a little bit of a shorter weathercast here. For today, as you can see, we've had a bit of clouds and rain here. We had rain coming down pretty good this morning. Let's go through the charts here and check out what's going on. Across Texas, easterly flow again, so we're getting more of a northeasterly component, and that tends to be a little bit more humid, and we get a little bit more clouds, and it's a good setup for rain here because we form kind of a dome here of cooler air, and that helps generate lift as it goes over that surface. So basically we have this front extending all the way down to Mexico. If I scroll that south, you can see that a little bit. Monterey down there having northeast winds and cool temperatures. So the front is all the way down south of the border, kind of like that. Maybe even further south than that, because the Mexico area, Mexico City area, looks like some north winds in that region. This front made some pretty good progress. I'm picking it up all the way up down in Honduras there. So you see that right there. So pretty deep and rich air mass, cool air mass, and that's shoved the front pretty far south. But on the tail end back here, we've had a little bit of cyclogenesis. Yesterday we had severe weather in the Las Cruces and El Paso area. And that was due to the tail end kind of reaching back up like this. And we got a little bit of a wave along that tail end of the front. So let's check out the thermal analysis. And for that, we will go to the NAM. We'll look at the thickness. And here we go. And you can see that the strongest thickness gradients are pretty far to the north, up in Canada. And that's the reason the weather is so quiet across much of the U.S. this weekend. So if we draw out the fronts, we're going to get something like, maybe something like this. Warm front all the way up in Manitoba. So temperatures should be above normal in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And the East Coast front down through Virginia and off the coast like that. And then this old frontal boundary, you can see there's not a whole lot of thermal contrast left along it. It's enough to drive some northerly winds in through Mexico, but it looks like it's actually not that deep. So that should start mixing out and change over pretty quickly as that air mass modifies. And so we're going to naturally find the jet to be pretty far north. Haven't looked at the water vapor in quite a while, but this is the pattern here. Looks like there is kind of a weak jet down to the south, maybe a subtropical jet extending like that. The main polar front jet is way up to the north. And there we can see it pretty much following that pattern with the ridge across the central U.S. and the long wave trough off the west coast. Let's see what's next here. I guess we'll just take a quick look at weather around the rest of the country. Washington and Oregon under southerly flow, so this is going to be sort of in the warm sector out ahead of the system. Very cool conditions, but it is in the warm sector. There's the mild conditions across Manitoba and Saskatchewan with that southerly flow coming up from the northern plains. Then looking out in the northeast U.S., once again we have a strong northwesterly component across that area, so things are remaining kind of cool. And then we were looking for that front maybe down in the Virginia area. And that's probably true as an average throughout the troposphere, but actually at the surface it looks like it goes possibly a little bit further south than that. Trying to pick out exactly where that is. We go from 61 to 62, 54, 48. There we go. So there's our temperature contrast right there. 50, 63, 59, 55, 57, 54, 48. It's a kind of a weak contrast there. And we expect that to kind of continue weakening because high pressure will drive the isotherms apart. It will tend to spread out the temperature contrasts. So I guess we can just go ahead and head right into our forecast here over the next couple weeks. We'll look at the GFS. And let me get that lined up here very quickly. Okay, so for tonight, the main frontal boundary is way up to the north and to the west. And starting out our work week here, we start redeveloping the southerly flow across the plains due to the strong cyclogenesis. In the northern plains, we're going to have a little bit of a front looking like this. Warm front through Ontario into the northeast. So we'll start eroding some of this cool air over New England over the next couple of days and start bringing in some of this warmer air. Things stay pretty quiet out in the Pacific. And let's see here, by Tuesday and Wednesday, next frontal system starting to come inland here along the northwest coast. Here's our warm front through the Great Lakes area, still working its way eastward. But it looks like we have this cool high pressure still in place over the central U.S. So that'll kind of keep a northerly flow in place across Texas. Where did that come from? Let me back that up a little bit. Yeah, that looks like a cool Pacific high kind of working southeastward and kind of sneaking in there. And there it is. We start getting some pressure rises here. So it looks like kind of a weak front moving through Texas around Tuesday. Okay, so that's what's going on there. So that moves through. Cold outbreak, very cool air coming into New England for Thursday. There's the front for that. High pressure across the central U.S. Looks like a warm up here in the northern plains, and things still stay pretty quiet out in the Pacific Northwest. Here comes our next system, and you see it originates up in Saskatchewan right here. So this is kind of like an Alberta clipper here on Thursday. So Friday it moves through the Great Lakes. We find it about like this. A little bit of an occluded front, kind of like that. And there's our next outbreak of cool air. And that's going to affect mostly the eastern U.S. Then for the weekend, there comes the outbreak, heading mostly for the eastern U.S., driven by this high-pressure area, and another system coming in along the northwest coast right there. So those are the two main changes. There's that east coast system right there, a lot of cool air for the eastern U.S. And then our next system comes inland. This is getting way out there for Wednesday, November 16th. But there you go. And this may not actually pan out the way it's showing, but it's indicating things get a little bit stormy here in the central U.S. around November 19th through 20th. So that could be that cold bias showing once again. So we shall see about that. But the origin of this system here, this is going to be from the Pacific, because if we backtrack that, you can see this area of dipping thickness lines comes from the North Pacific. So if that does pan out, it doesn't look like it's going to actually be that cold. We would see here in Texas probably highs of 40s, lows of 20s maybe your first freeze. Anyway, we'll see how that pans out, and I think that'll do it for our forecast. Anyway, I appreciate you all joining us, and I will see you tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.